Happy Halloween, and welcome to another edition of the Orange Crush podcast and Fridays with Faxon with his prop. Well, Faxon, actually, before we get going, I think you need to inform our YouTube audience of where you currently are.
Oh, we're in Little John Coliseum, the best place to be on planet Earth, man. The cream of the crop of the athletic department, Grayson. So excited to be checking in live from Little John today.
That's right. In a couple of days' time, this will go live on Halloween. We have basketball, men's and women's, tipping off Monday morning and Monday evening. Some exciting stuff there. We might have to start sprinkling in some basketball on these podcasts to close out the football season, but we'll see. But I hope everybody's having a better day than YouTube TV and Disney right now. And if you're at home, like all of us, struggling to find ESPN on our YouTube TV platform, we stand with you. We stand with you because I am one of them, and hoping that we can get that resolved by tonight so we can start watching some college football. Faxon, as we always do, we bring you on every Friday. Besides last week's open date, which I think both of us were busy with some travel, understandably. You were at a wedding. I was in Boston. Fun times were had, but we're back. We're back for some college football. You told me before we got started that we have some wild predictions in store. But before we get to the football, I wanted to give you the floor, as we always do. You guys raised a lot of money over at the Roar. Would you like to start talking about that?
Yeah, man, the Tigers for Tata's campaign was just an outstanding hit once again, as always. Gabo and Kathleen's All-In Team Foundation, raising funds for breast cancer research. Obviously, it's a very personal cause to many at the Roar. And really, even if it's not a direct family member, I guarantee everybody at home has a friend or a friend of a friend or a mom of a friend or an aunt or a sister of a friend that has dealt with breast cancer and had to gone through that battle. So to be able to raise six figures once again for the foundation through us at the Roar, it's humbling. It's a blessing. And we have the best listeners on planet Earth, and I'm very appreciative for them. So very humbled, very honored, and very blessed by the great support from the community.
Yeah, if you're one of the cross-pollinators between TigerNet and the Roar, we appreciate you for raising money for a good cause. I did so myself a few weeks back.
I will interrupt and say we're about to start practice soon. So if I have to relocate mid-episode, if you had that on your bingo card at home, we're going to take our talents right up there if need be. So if you see a little shuffling, I might need you to hold down the fort for me, Grayson. Sorry to interrupt what you were saying.
No, you're good.
You made a very generous donation, and we're very appreciative of that. But I'm watching our team walk down the tunnel in real time.
This is the beauty of live podcasting. Not necessarily live, but the power of editing, where we might have to cut a few things or two. Maybe we can get Brad an exclusive cameo on the pod. Maybe he'll come over here and say hi and give his predictions.
Billy Donlin's taking a couple jumpers right now. We might be able to get Coach Donlin on here. He's not really the type of guy, though.
We're getting the live play-by-play on this podcast here. But I guess while we have you in this specific spot, let's get into the college football madness on Saturday. However you may be tuning in, the one game that looks pretty appetizing in a slate that doesn't have many good ones on the menu this weekend. Vanderbilt, 9th-ranked team in the country, going to Texas to face the Longhorns. They've picked up some wins against the bottom of the barrel in the SEC. Arch Manning was hurt, exited the game against Mississippi State, and Texas has had to pretty much play its best football to take down some of the, I would say, mediocre to bad SEC teams. I don't see this as a close game, Faxon. I'm struggling to find a reason to not pick Vandy. They feel like this is a group that's bound for the college football playoff, which, crazy word to say, but shout out to Vandy, man.
Vandy, we freaking turned. That's all I got to say. I like the Commodores here. Football is about two things: running the ball, stopping the run. Texas can't run the ball. Vandy excels at running the ball and stopping the run. Weirdly enough, and it's still a little uncomfortable for me to say out loud as well, but Vanderbilt is a better football team than Texas. I feel confident in saying it. They are better at football than the Texas Longhorns. The Vanderbilt Commodores up in Nashville, they are better than Texas, and they're going to win this football game this weekend in Austin. Crazy times we live in. Crazy.
Wow. I mean, that's that alone in that statement where NIL, for all of the complaints and all of maybe the misgivings we have with how college football is now, it's opened the door for a school like Vandy that's been the 21st century punching bag of the SEC. And now they're just displaying some punches of their own. It's pretty pretty neat to see.
Yeah, it is. And it's, Pavia is the head of the snake. Obviously, he's done such a good job, for Vanderbilt. And it's been a really inspiring story, Grayson. So excited to see Vandy get after it this weekend. And I fear that this might be the relocation part of the program coming. So bring in the next game while I walk up the stairs.
All right, so we're gonna do this while Faxon walks. He's putting on the backpack, and today it's like Nat Geo where I'm kind of watching the animal walk across the plains, but we're watching Faxon walk up the stairs in Little John. So to our YouTube audience, I'm gonna break this down for you. We have the wild Faxon Childress in the plains of Little John. I'm gonna stop. Anyways,
I'm jogging. I'm trying to get Grayson. Dude, stop doing whatever that is. So I'm jogging.
Well, anyways, I'm going to set the
here.
scene and not in an accent that made probably half of our audience tune out at about the 5-6 minute mark. Faxon's on press row, and we got Miami heading to SMU. Miami's been a little rocky for the last several weeks in ACC play. Not Boston College, Louisville took them down on a Friday night not so long ago, and they've been struggling a little bit out of the gate for some of these games. SMU, a team that just went on the road and beat Clemson, but then also lost to a better than people think Wake Forest team. Does SMU have an upset ticket here?
Yes, SMU's going to win the football game. Listen, y'all know I've been in on Miami this year, and my main trepidation with buying all the way in was that Cristobal was going to find a way to Cristobal it up at some point. Cristobal did last week, man. Cristobal did. It was so bad last week against Louisville. And now an SMU team with their back against the wall, really well-coached group and Rhett Lashley riding that momentum post the bye week up to Winston-Salem, and they suffered an unfortunate loss to those Wake Forest Demon Deacons. So now they've got to bounce back, and they're desperate. Miami's desperate. Something about Cristobal in November is just, I don't know. I think SMU covers the number. I think there's a good chance they win that game outright.
Man, and that would be the typical the president of the anti-Mario Cristobal, but also simultaneously the president of the Mario Cristobal fan club, at a little bit of a conflict this weekend.
Conflict of interest, bro. Conflict of interest, but I think Jennings and SMU keep it close enough and find a way to at least have it competitive at the end. Wouldn't be shocked if they won the game. And Coach Donlin is screaming. So if y'all are getting some background noise, that's on my end. My bad. Y'all are gonna have to bear with me today. We had to be creative to get the pod in.
You know what? We're going to get some basketball nuggets in. So if you hear or see something, just interject and be like, look what I'm seeing. Then I can write this down as some basketball intel and be kind of the insider group here. Faxon, I know you had some other ACC takes you wanted to throw in. So I'm going to leave. I'm leaving the door to you. The red carpet's open. It's rolled out. Go for it.
I think Virginia Tech's going to beat Louisville this weekend. They're a 10.5-point underdog at home in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech ran for over 350 yards last week against California. And this Louisville team is on the exact inverse of SMU and Miami, where they're riding this massive emotional high after a big-time win. Usually what happens with that on a road look-ahead spot at a weird time of the day, Blacksburg, Virginia is going to be a little bit cold. Kyron Drones playing his last couple games at home in Lane Stadium. I just think the writing's on the wall for this Jeff Brom Louisville group. I think they've punched above their weight to their record thus far, and I think there's a good chance Virginia Tech wins the game this weekend.
Well, there you go. Did you have another one in there?
I got another ACC upset that I think is going to transpire this weekend. I think Wake Forest is going to beat Florida State, and they're a 10.5-point underdog right now down in Tallahassee. I think this is going to be the week of the upsets, Grayson. And you know what? I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and give you guys an entire preview of what I think is going to happen this weekend in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Let's start on Friday. North Carolina is going to beat Syracuse. We go to Saturday, okay? Duke Clemson, we'll save that for the back burner. I like SMU outright at home over Miami. I like Virginia Tech outright at home over Louisville. I like Cal outright at home over Virginia. And I like NC State outright at home over Georgia Tech, in addition to Wake Forest on the road going to Tallahassee. It is 5 dogs. It's the week of the dogs. I'm going this weekend, Grayson. The weekend of the dogs. I think 5 dogs in the ACC win outright between Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, California, NC State, and then, of course, as we said, the SMU Mustangs at home in Dallas.
You know, speaking of dogs, the old Florida-Georgia rivalry is being restored. Did you see the headline or the story that was written about Gunnar Stockton this week?
Yeah, that's one of the more unfathomable ones I've ever seen in my years covering college sports. I don't really know what to make of that at all. But I'm sorry for Gunner's loss in such a tragic fashion, cursing out Todd Grantham prior to a collapse.
That's about as SEC as it gets, where fans literally will give their last breath to cursing out their program. That's elite stuff right there.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have an upset? You have this upset slate. You're feeling good about the weekend of the dogs. Does that continue with the Bulldogs, or does Florida have an interim boost on
I think
site?
the I think the interim boost is real. I think it's going to be a competitive football game that Florida covers the spread, but I'm taking Georgia to win it. Gunnar Stockton's a big time player. This is obviously an emotional matchup for him as a lifelong Georgia fan, and I think they find the way to get the job done.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Georgia's they've kind of flown under the radar for me in the SEC because you have Ole Miss garnering so much attention in that shootout. Lane Kiffin, where's he going after Ole Miss? What's the story there? Vanderbilt's been a team to watch this year. Alabama's resurgence. So Georgia's kind of been this team that they're really good. They've sort of not been talked about as much. You'd think after a 40-point performance against Ole Miss, they'd be the talk of the town, but not really. And so this has been a Kirby Smart probably for him. He's loving it because this team's flying under the radar before December, and they're still a candidate for Atlanta. Before we get back to this video, we'd like to thank the title sponsor for this podcast, Newton Scott and Associates. This team is headlined by Jeff Scott, former Clemson assistant coach and two-time national champion, as well as Eric Newton, a longtime local and trusted real estate partner. These two are teaming up to provide a first-class experience for all Clemson fans. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or build in the upstate area of South Carolina, you can trust Newton Scott and Associates. Choose the same team that Clemson coaches are selecting when they're looking to buy, sell, or build, all the way from Tigertown to Lake Kiowee. For more information, you can find them at newtonscottsc.com or by calling the number 864-722-9062. That's 864-722-9062. Now, let's get back to the video.
Yeah, definitely the case. I feel like they're underrated as of right now, and it's a good team, and Gunner is the head of the snake. So if they could continue to stay disciplined on defense and kind of grow into that Schumann Kirby style and try and overcome maybe a lack of talent in comparison to years past on that side of the ball, then Georgia should be right in the thick of things in Atlanta and the college football playoff.
I think 4 SEC teams are going to make the playoff. I right now I'd have, if I had to lock it down, I'd probably have A&M, Bama, Georgia, and Vandy. Any pushback?
A&M, Bama, Georgia, and Vandy. I'm not sure Bama's getting in. I think Bama
Really?
might have a loss or two left on their schedule. A team that I think is flying a little bit under the radar that does have a puncher's chance to get in my opinion. I think Ole Miss has a good chance to get in. I would take Ole Miss over Bama right now if I had to pick between the two. I like the Vanderbilt shout. I think they've got a really good chance of getting in this thing as well. But when I look at the SEC, there is a little bit of a wild card team that I think has a chance to potentially shake things up down the stretch that still could play their way into the playoff because of how difficult their schedule is, and that's Brent Venables' Oklahoma Sooners. They, albeit, have a very difficult schedule in front of them, but all they got to do is win 4 games. If they win 4 games, they are an absolute home run slam dunk lock. And their last 4 games are against Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. They control their own destiny as far as I'm concerned. And I think if they roll the ball out and play as well as we've seen they can play early in the season, they can win all 4 of those games. I think they're winning this weekend in Knoxville. I think they're going to beat Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that game right there. You have Oklahoma beating Tennessee. I do as well. Tennessee 14 feels a little high for me. I feel like Tennessee's been very average this year, and so they've been kind of, in terms of their ranking, they're punching above their weight. And Oklahoma, I think they got a lot better. That was a good get right game for John Mateer, where it felt like that offense was starting to find a groove, a rhythm, the defense staying in that game. They had a chance at the end. Lane Kiffin maybe haunting that defense by talking trash in the post-game interview does a little something to that group. But you did mention that schedule, and I'd love to dive into just the job Venables has done. So I would mark down Mizzou without their quarterback and LSU with all the messes that they're dealing with right now. You'd have them at least at 8 wins. If they can get Tennessee and Bama on the road, I feel like that at that point, given the parameters we've laid out, they might be a lock. I'm not sure they can. I think they win this weekend. I just don't know if they beat Alabama next week.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult one, and especially with back-to-back road trips. And Bama's obviously playing good football. And it's a good team, so there's a lot to play for still for Brent Venables' Oklahoma Sooners. But I do think that's kind of the forgotten team in the fray, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the reason I have Bama in the playoff is because I'm probably going to pick them to beat Oklahoma next week. Now, if Oklahoma finishes 9-3 and they're just kind of outside that bubble, considering where they were last year, that's a big step for Venables. And they needed a little bit more of an offensive punch. But if John Mateer hadn't gotten hurt, I think they're still undefeated.
I tend to agree with that. That Texas team is not very good.
No, not at all. I mean, we've seen Kentucky and Miss State take those Longhorn groups to the wire. So, man, it's been a good year for Venables. It's been a great year for Tony Elliott as well, former Clemson assistants, just killing it. Combined 3 losses in their tenures here. Faxon, another interesting matchup, and we'll get to Duke in a bit here. You kind of laid out the ACC stuff. We're going to go a little bit to the Big 12 and the Big 10 for our final 2. Let's start with Nebraska and USC. Dylan Raiola, Matt Rule just got a contract extension, so it might be taking him out of the equation for some of these head coaching jobs that are all opened up across the country. USC playing better, but at the same time, Nebraska, they found something, truly found something with this rushing attack and what they've been able to do on the ground. Raiola's playing solid football. He's not really an earth-shattering player. He's more of just kind of steering the ship in the right direction. I think I like Nebraska in this spot.
Yeah, this is a unique one, and you never necessarily imagined that these two teams would ever play a couple years back, right? And obviously conference expansion has made everything just absolutely bonkers in the world of college football. I think I'm leaning Nebraska here too, but admittedly, Grayson, I'm not like too convicted in a belief or a side on one side or the other there. I think this is kind of a coin flip game in my eyes, but I would lean towards Nebraska, yeah.
Yeah, and USC, they're an interesting case study because you had mentioned earlier, I think it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to their Pacific time zone and their comfort at home. This is a road test. It's going to be a big one for them. Lincoln Riley's group looks better, but they're still kind of, when it comes to the superior competition out there, it feels like they're never really able to rise to that moment. I know they beat Michigan, but that Michigan team doesn't really look – they look like a year away from being serious under Sherrone Moore.
I agree with that assessment, and I think it's interesting. I think Michigan is definitely going to be back on the top of the stage in college football at some point in the next 5 years, but I don't think it's going to be this year or next year. I think 2 years from now, they have a chance to be very, very scary.
Yeah, it's with that quarterback Underwood, who's pretty remarkable talent just around him. They don't really have much in terms of pieces. That kid can sling it. He's going to be a conversation in a few years in terms of the NFL. That'll be – what pick will the Jets be selecting with him? We'll see. This next one, near and dear to both our hearts. Shout out to Austin. We miss you, man. Cincy at Utah. College game day making the smart move by heading out west with the Utes. Big college football playoff implications here with the Big 12 race. I'll let you start off. Utah, do they get it done here at home? That's a tough place to play.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati outright. I think Sorsby's been the best quarterback in the country outside of Mensa this season. Utah is on a game day skid, meaning they're incapable of winning when game day comes to town. Austin, good friend of the program, texted me earlier this week. He said, take all the money to your name and put it on Cincinnati because Utah's not winning. I'm going to trust my guy, and I'm going to pick Cincinnati outright in this one. I'm excited to watch Sorsby versus Dampier. I think those are two of the better quarterbacks in the country. But give me Cincinnati 31-30 over the Utes.
There you go. Before we get to Clemson Duke, Faxon, have we seen a Brad Brownell sighting?
We have not. I can give y'all a little update. Hold on. Right down here. So we've got Zach Foster and Ace Buckner taking shooting drills on the men's side, and then Taylor Johnson-Matthews taking shooting drills on the women's side. It's Coach Donlin and a grad assistant that are rebounding for Zach and Ace. And then on the women's side, it's KG, Caitlin Grasillo. Shout out to KG. And a GA as well, who are doing the rebounding duties there. So just getting some drill work in before practice. That's why I'm over here. Got to be at practice today for men's basketball and women's basketball. But excited to be here and excited for hoop season, man. I can't freaking wait. Get me out there.
Can't wait. Shout out to KG, man. Friend of the program.
Shout out to KG.
we always leave this game for last, but it always feels like we're saving like when you're ripping off a Band-Aid and if you don't do it quick enough, it's really painful. Feels like that's what we're doing every week with Clemson and talking about kind of their season woes. They had another open date to digest what's kind of going down. Do you see a path to a bowl game here? Does Clemson get it done against Duke?
I think Clemson can win the game. I think Duke's the better football team right now, and Clemson's got to do a couple things to win. Run the ball effectively, stop the run effectively. If you let Castle and Shepard, those backs, get going early in the game, then Mensa is going to destroy you down the field when you're forced to put more guys in the box. That's just point blank, period. That's what they've done all year. They use the run to set up the pass. It starts with stopping the run for the Tigers. But where Duke has some weaknesses would be time of possession, controlling the ball. They are very susceptible to going 3 and out and having quick drives that are unsuccessful. So that's why I think it's important for Clemson to run the ball, even though Duke defends the run very, very well. If you stick to that run and you can make that a focal point of your game plan to hoard the ball, if you will, and it just hone in on time of possession, I think that's Clemson's path to winning this game. I don't want Clemson in a shootout with Duke because they have the better quarterback and better team. I want Clemson to keep this as low scoring as possible.
Yeah, it feels like that the ingredients that you've mentioned there, Clemson really hasn't been able to sustain that as of late with their rushing attack. Garrett Riley did say, and now a lot of Clemson fans have said, yeah, right, in retortion to that, about getting more of the tailbacks out there, seeing Eziamume, seeing Davidson, seeing Adams. Will we see that on Saturday? Maybe, maybe not. Add a little bit more spice into the run game, perhaps, but it's just another grand mystery with how this Clemson team has operated. I'm taking Duke to win this one. Just don't feel like Clemson has enough juice to get it going, and I think Klubnik, health-wise, isn't going to be able to get it done.
Yeah, I'm worried, and I also think that this is the nightmare opponent, for Cade Klubnik to have an injured ankle against, if that makes sense. So not looking forward to that element of that with the way that Duke likes to get after the quarterback, but let's hope Tu's ready to go and playing good ball in his first return to football in 3 weeks.
Final question, do we see Vizina on Saturday?
I think the answer to that is yes. I think we will see Vizina at some point. I don't think it's going to be like a replacement, but I think there might be a little bit of a package for him in short distance because of Cade's lack of mobility with that ankle injury, that maybe you try and exploit something you've seen on tape in the defense and you utilize Vizina and or Denson for that. So I would say yes, tentative yes. Also, before we sign off, Juju Preston, a guy that I think could make his debut for the Clemson Tigers this upcoming weekend, freshman wide receiver. I'd be on the lookout for him with the absence of Bryant Westco Jr.
There you have it, some Faxon intel here to end the show. Any final thoughts before we get rolling into the weekend?
Excited for the weekend of college football. Sorry for the chaos here today. I'm on like 2 hours of sleep and trying to make it work to hop on the pod, but anything for my guy Grayson. And don't kill me too much if there's a ton of background noise in this one. I'm trying my best.
I wish we had gotten like a Brad Brownell classic yell in this episode, but we probably gonna have to wait a little bit for that.
RJ!
The RJs are the Chauncey
Wiggins!
Absolute classics today. You heard me use an accent, Faxon screaming with Brad Brownell, walking all over Little John. It was a spectacle today on the Orange Crush podcast, guys. Thank you as always for tuning in. Subscribe for more. God bless y'all. Have a